Hello, everyone.
Hello!
Every time! Hello, welcome to SWJW. How we doing?
Yes, hello.
SWJW.
SWJW time. Everyone excited?
Whoop whoop, raise the roof, raise the roof.
Whee!
It's like a frat party. But it's just us. And we're like, hey everyone, and like the camera pans or like just cuts to an audience member, the only audience member, and it's Gerbert, and he's just like,
He's just like, woo! Yeah.
he's just like, woo, and then he kind of looks at his watch and says, hey, I gotta go, guys. Welcome back. We've had a good week. I've been trying to teach Dylan how to speak Kiwi.
And I've been failing miserably.
Oh, come on, give us one of them.
Oh, chickas.
So good!
Hey.
Whee! Oh, what's up, everybody? My name is Athena. This is Dylan.
It's me.
It's Dylan.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. In the bushes.
In the bushes. I am here.
So we just watched... What did we just watch? I forgot!
Grave of the Fireflies.
So we just watched Grave of the Fireflies from Studio Ghibli, directed by Isao Takahata. Rest in peace. Bless his soul. Beautiful, beautiful man.
He will live on in something.
He will live on through all his work, his amazing work.
Yes.
Isao Takahata founded with one other person whose name I've forgotten, and like a couple others. He founded Studio Ghibli, which has produced like massive anime, like animated movies from Japan. Hence anime. And they're amazing. Like he didn't really animate anything. He was just directing because I don't know if he wasn't good at animating or if he just didn't want to, but yeah, he was in love with animation, so that's cool.
I choose to believe it's the same situation that I have, where technically I can, but I'm so lazy that I get 3 frames in and I'm like, wow, I have several thousand more of these to do. Nah,
Yeah,
I'll hire
I'm
someone
the
else to
same.
do it.
I'm the same, except I can't do it. We're going straight into phase 1. This is where we talk about the things we liked, ranging from quotes, part of the film, specific shots, acting, or voice acting in this case, and so on.
Hey, what did I like? Well, obviously the art style. That's some top tier art style they got there. 10 out of 10. Would watch again.
I love the Studio Ghibli art style.
Anyone that disagrees, bad.
Bad, I agree. Like, I get why some people wouldn't like it. It is quite sharp and more focused on duller colours and, you know, pretty backgrounds, things like that. Not as much as a lot of things that we see today, like The Last of Us 2. That latest one, like how it was mostly like really beautiful backgrounds and everything else looked like shit. I also liked the art style. Why don't you go on?
Yeah, I like that it didn't really get off track throughout the whole thing. The main thing in movies that ends up making me forget a lot of information and not pay attention after a while is that there's like 15 different little storylines going on at the same time. This one just kind of sticks to the main thing. There isn't really anything else going on aside from the main point of the movie. Just the 2 people trying to live their life in a bunker.
Yeah.
That's all it is. No side stories, just how I like it.
Side stories are okay if done well, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, a lot of directors and things, like a lot of films just end up going too far off the track, you know? They go off the rails, they'll be like, oh yeah, the side story's really cool, and then they'll elaborate on that side story and we'll be like, okay, where's the main character?
Yeah, side stories are fine as long as it's kept as a side story and they don't try to force it to be 2 main stories put into one thing. And even when it is kept as a side story, a lot of the time there seems to be attempts to put in a bunch of side stories, and I don't like that either.
I've been criticized by people for not just movies but shows as well. I can get really confused. Like, I'll be paying attention for a whole thing, but if I'm starting to get confused, I don't like it. And people say, well, all the answers will be given to you in the end. And like, yeah, that's good. That's all well and good, but the storyline itself shouldn't be confusing just for the sake of being confusing. Yeah. Unless that's what you're going for. If you're literally, it's like with really hard games that are made specifically just to be asshole hard. Those are fine to me. I enjoy that because that's what they're supposed to be. Whereas, if a show's supposed to be good, and it's supposed to tell a good story, and it's supposed to be entertaining, and your goal is to sit there and enjoy it, and eat some popcorn and relax with the family, you're not wanting to get confused at every turn, you know? Like, movies made confusing just to boggle your fucking mind. Those are cool. I like those. But if my mind's getting boggled because I'm watching Grimm, which is the best show, full stop. Anyone who disagrees, sorry that you're wrong. That sucks.
Very
Damn, that sucks. That blows for you. But there are a lot of plot points where I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what? I don't understand. And then sometimes, like, you get the answer, but it's so late in the story that you're just like, what has this got to do with anything? And then you re-watch it and you're like, oh, but I don't want that. I want the answers. I want to know. I want to understand what I'm watching. But this wasn't that. This was good. It is very straightforward. You know, it's a teenage boy and his young sister trying to survive American air raids in Japan, in Kobe, and trying to survive malnutrition and stealing for food, fighting desperately for survival, and that's what the story is, and they never go off that track. Sorry, I rambled.
That was actually pretty much my third point. They do kind of connect, I guess, though. Like, it doesn't get confusing with side stories and stuff. They stay on track, but also they keep the main story, like, they don't try to encrypt the whole thing. Like, they're very upfront with what it is.
Yeah.
There's so many movies that they'll just have it be the most cryptic thing that you have to decipher to understand what's going on, even if it's just one main story.
Yeah, and then if you interpret it wrong, the director goes, that's not what it's supposed to be. And it's like, well, what the fuck was it supposed to be, bud? Because if
they
it's
want to
not
make it
coming
so
through, then it's too cryptic, and you've not portrayed your message well at all.
Yeah, they want to make it so deep, but then if you get it wrong, they're like, well, you just suck.
Imagine if Pierpaolo Pasolini heard someone say, oh, this is a nice fetish film.
And he's like, that's not what it is!
You know what it is! He's not about the poopy jacuzzi!
It's not about that! It's about the politics, man!
It's about the politicians! That is actually a pretty good example of what you were talking about with the side stories that are becoming too main story, is the side stories that are literally told as stories in the movie that get way too off track.
Yeah, like, I remember none of them at this point.
Yeah.
Because there was just so many.
I liked that while this film is obviously, it's not an anti-war film, but it does quite come across that way. But I like that it could be interpreted as a lot of things. You could put these characters in Vietnam, you know, you could put them in France, you could put them in England. Like, air raids were going on all over the show, right? The only reason that we know that it is based in Japan is because we know it's based in Kobe, and we know that the Japanese Imperial Army and the Navy are fighting, and we find out that they lost, right? But you could put these characters in the same situation in a bunch of war-ridden countries back in the World War, and it would make sense. I like that. I like that. So while it's not supposed to be an anti-war film, it works beautifully as one. If that was the intention, it would have come through perfectly.
Yeah, so there is sort of multiple meanings to it. It just wasn't exactly intended.
Yeah, which is cool. I liked that it really, instead of focusing on... While I love watching war films about the soldiers who are up front fighting and, you know, the shit they go through, because they go through a lot, right? I loved just watching two characters who their only connection to the war was that their dad is in the Navy. They're just two citizens just trying to survive, you know, and I think that's that's something we don't really look at a lot. Like, we see wars in real life, right? And we go, oh, the poor civilians. But none of them really connect to us because we don't know what they go through. All we know is, oh, that hospital got bombed. Shit. And then we move on with our lives. Whereas if we could see the lives of every single child and his little sister who had to survive air raids and things from the United States or from Syria, from Israel, from Palestine, from wherever, right? I think we'd sympathize with them a lot more. But I think what really amazed me about this movie is that none of the citizens seem to, in the movie, none of them seem to want their country to just give up. Like, Sata, the main boy, was absolutely devastated when he found out that they lost the war. And that would have been the idea among, like, most of them, I would assume, is, you know, this idea of glory, of winning, of just, like, honor. It wasn't just in the military, it was in their people too. I think that's neat. And I don't know if that's accurate, because obviously I wasn't there, but the way that Takahata took it, and seemed, like, even the main boy who's gone through so much because of his own country's refusal to give in, even though they started the fight, he's devastated that they lost the war. If it were me, I'd be stoked. I'd be like, finally, maybe we can get the economy going, we can get people growing food again, we can start eating properly again, you know? But for him, he was gutted. I think the direction they went in was fantastic, I think. Just to cut it all down into what we said. The streamlining and the storytelling was fantastic. They didn't go off on tangents like I have in this whole episode. And they've got their message, but it can be interpreted as any other message in any other country. It's very flexible, you know? It's impressive for the time as well, because back then, like, animation was pretty limited. And it was good, even, like, for today's standard. I would say, if someone came up to me and said, I did an animation, I'd watch that and I'd be like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like, even for today's standards, that is good. So it's held up. I think I like that as well. It's held up as a good movie. It hasn't, it's not in poor taste. It hasn't, like, died out over the years or anything like that. It's still really good. Now, Dylan, what's phase 2?
What we didn't like about it.
Tell me, Jax, what did you not like about the movie?
We were talking about, or I was talking about, how some directors get really upset when their stories are interpreted the wrong way, and where they make a story arc or a storyline that gives off a message that can be interpreted wrong, and they get upset by it. And that's happened here, actually, which is really disappointing. So, when I was looking Isao Takahata up, just to, you know, check on Grave of the Fireflies and everything, he actually got pretty upset when people in the West were interpreting it as an anti-war film, when it really does come off as an anti-war film, or at least an anti-American Army air raid film, I guess. Like,
Same thing.
to be, like, perfectly honest, I think it was silly that he got upset by that interpretation when it just is how it comes off, you know? I think his works just fine, but it doesn't, his interpretation is basically, this is just two kids trying to survive. Like, yeah, that works just fine, but you didn't have to make it about the war then, did you? I mean, you can make it about literally anything. If it's not an anti-war film, why'd you make it about the war? Do you know what I mean?
If it's that easy to think that it's about something else, then I don't see what the point is in getting angry when people see it as that other thing.
Yeah. If you're
Like,
it's not an anti-war film, then why'd you make it about the war? You know? Like,
Yeah.
it's totally fine if your interpretation's different, but don't be getting upset when people are like, oh, well, this is about World War II, this is about when they were getting air raided, this must be an anti-war film or an anti-American bombing film.
People were clearly going to give it the wrong sort of meaning and everything. It's not a surprise that would happen. Why get mad about it?
Yeah.
Like, you should have been expecting it.
And if it upsets you that much, then I'm sorry, but make it clearer that this is not an anti-war film. Fuck, put a thing at the start that says this is not an anti-war film. That would be like, if you can't put that through in your animation, like, no, you're not a shit animator and you're not a shit storyteller, but you're shit at getting your point across. And I feel bad saying that about an excellent director who is also deceased. But that's the only thing I didn't like, to be honest. Everything else, like, it was sad, but like not sad in like a why'd they have to do that kind of way, but sad in like a this, you know, portrays the feeling really well kind of sad.
There isn't really much to dislike, actually.
No, there's not. But
Aside from just like an occasional character that just you just see them and just like, wow, they suck. Well, yeah, the only thing I dislike is that there is the occasional character that I don't necessarily like because they're mean to people, mean to the main children. It's not nice.
Can you think of someone specifically and why?
Their auntie, because they're like all the times you just like, man, y'all don't do anything, y'all are so unhelpful, just being so mean to them.
Yeah, it's like they're kids who have been orphaned. Your sister is dead.
Yeah.
Like, you'd think you'd show them some fucking these people actually work for the country and blah blah blah. You need to you know, and she convinces them to sell their mother's clothes, their silk kimonos for some rice, which obviously is a smart thing to do, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, there are other things you can sell before you sell something that's special.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just that it's the kid's like mother, it's her sister.
Yeah.
You know, you'd think you'd show a little more respect for your sister.
Also, one of the children is like 4 years old. What are they gonna do to contribute, man?
Yeah. Why are you withholding food from her when she is a child? Okay, well that's it then.
Should have died instead.
I agree. Let's move on to phase 3. If we
Alright.
could do anything different in this film, what would it be? I would make it more clear that this is not an anti-war film, but is instead a film about 2 children surviving. I would take the war out of the equation entirely. I would have them doing something else where they need to survive, but I wouldn't have them in the war, full stop.
Fair enough. Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Pretty similar. If they could make it a bit more clear, but also I think the war part of it actually works for it really well. So if they could manage to...
It works, but just not in the way they want it to.
Yeah, if they could manage to basically keep it the way it is, but make it more clear somehow.
Or, here's an idea, I would change the fact that the director is so against it being called an anti-war film. Why don't you just allow for different interpretations?
Yeah, that works just as well.
Yeah.
But if it's that much of a problem for them, should have made it more clear.
Yeah. So we've looked into the background of the director and the film and such, as you know from us referencing it throughout the episode. We're discussing, you know, interesting stuff that happened either in person or like what the movie was about, you know, give a synopsis, things like that, basically. And I guess I'm starting it off for once. Grave of the Fireflies is a 1988 animated film from Studio Ghibli produced by Toru Hara and directed by Isao Takahata. It's a Japanese film set in Kobe, which is a city in Japan. It is the story of 2 siblings, Seita and Setsuko, and their struggle to survive in the final few months of World War II. The film starts off on September 21st, 1945, not long after the end of the Second World War. A teenage boy, who we know later as Seita, dies of starvation in a train station in Kobe. Some rando janitor goes through his stuff and finds a candy tin, which becomes symbolical later in the film, and he throws it out into a field. The burned remains of some small bones come out, and the ghost of the boy's kid sister, who we know as Setsuko, comes out of the tin, and they join together with a swarm of fireflies and they get on a train. Cutting to earlier, the kid's home is destroyed in a firebombing, as well as the majority of Kobe. They get out without being harmed, but their mom dies from severe burns. They move in with a distant aunt who convinces them to sell their mother's special kimonos for rice. The boy grabs some supplies that he buried before the bombing and gives basically everything to their aunt other than a tin of Sakuma drops, which is the candy mentioned earlier. Food rations begin to get smaller and more refugees fill the home, so the aunt begins to be pretty shit to the kids, saying that they do nothing to earn the food they get. So the children leave their aunt's home and move into an abandoned bomb shelter. They release fireflies in the shelter for light, but all the fireflies die overnight and it scares the little girl. She buries them and cries about them and her mother dying. They run out of rice, so Sata starts stealing from local farmers and loots homes during air raids, which gets him beaten. Setsuko starts getting sick, so her brother takes her to the doctor who says she's malnourished. Sata withdraws all his mother's money out of desperation. He leaves the bank and is upset to find out that Japan lost and have surrendered. He also learns that his dad, who is captain in the IJN, is likely deceased, as most of the navy is sunk. He returns to the shelter and sees his sister hallucinating. He hurries to feed her, but she dies as he finishes making food for her. He cremates her body and stuffed doll in a casket made of straw, and carries her ashes with him in the candy tin with their dad's photo. Their spirits arrive in their destination at the end of the film, happy and healthy and surrounded by the fireflies Setsuko buried, resting on a bench looking over then present day Kobe. And here's Dylan with some interesting information on Isao Takahata.
Yes, it's time to talk about my man Isao Takahata.
Born on October 29th, 1935, Isao Takahata was born not long before the start of World War II. He was the youngest of 7 siblings, consisting of 4 girls and 3 boys, including himself. Almost just like me, sort of. Yay, we have so much in common.
When he was 9 years old, he and his family were made survivors of a major US air raid on Okayama City in Japan.
After going through university, he discovered his love for animation, but preferred the idea of writing and direction for animations rather than animating things himself.
The first animation he directed was The Great Adventures of Horus, Prince of the Sun in 1968, which is widely regarded as one of the first defining works to lead to current Japanese animation. However, it commercially bombed and he was immediately demoted.
Bombed? Haha!
Haha! Sad.
Sorry, Japan.
Get dabbed on.
Get sad on.
Jumping between studios and having a mixed success rate, he and 3 others sat down and started their own, Studio Ghibli, which is now one of the most widely known Japanese animation studios to date, with famous animations such as My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, the only one I know out of all of these, Grave of the Fireflies, Howl's Moving Castle, Ponyo, and many more. I only know Spirited Away out of all of those. That's weird, and I've never watched it.
And there's so many more, too.
Yeah. Isao unfortunately passed away at age 82 on the 5th of April 2018. Not long ago. Sad. I never knew about him until now. The film Grave of the Fireflies specifically won a few awards and is heavily debated between critics and those who stick true to Isao's original interpretation of the film as to what the message actually is. Isao stuck to the idea that it was not an anti-war film, although he was anti-war. From Wikipedia, in his own words, it is not an anti-war anime and contains absolutely no such message. I don't know about that one, my dude. Instead, Takahata had intended to convey an image of the brother and sister living a failed life due to isolation from society and invoked sympathy, particularly in people in their teens and 20s.
Have you got any thoughts on that, D-Dog?
I don't believe him that it's not anti-war at all.
Yeah.
Or at least with the no such message part. I don't believe that at all.
Yeah. It's not at all an anti-war film. It's just about 2 random kids who, just are isolated from society, and it sucks. So you couldn't have put them on a deserted island and had the same message. Is that what you're telling me?
They were living a failed life due to isolation from society because of, reasons like
The war.
Phase 5 is, what do you think this film is trying to express, if anything? Discuss the theories about the film. If there are any fan theories regarding the film or show, or any conspiracy theories? Look up Grave of the Fireflies conspiracy theories right now. While I think Isao was a wholesome man who made lots of good things and knew exactly what he was talking about, I do not believe that this was not an anti-war film, or at least to some extent an anti-war film, even just a tiny itty-bitty extent. Again, he was anti-war. He's always been anti-war. He grew up in the war. If he was just trying to say, oh yeah, you take 2 kids out of society and it sucks, you didn't have to put them in World War II. And I think it frustrates me that he says there's no such message. Yes, there is. And there is. I think it was just to appease his government, because for some reason they were antsy about that kind of thing. But like, I'm pretty sure. I guess I wouldn't know better than the director himself, but my opinion, bro. Any conspiracy theories, Dylan?
I'm not seeing any.
Man! What about fan theories? Fan theories.
I found a page that was talking about them, but it was everything else, like all the other big titles that were listed aside from this one.
Really?
Such as Totoro is the god of death.
Ooh. Oh, that's neat.
Didn't actually read through it or anything. Maybe I'll put it up on screen. Because it looks relatively long. There's an all one universe theory, but it also contains everything except for this.
So yeah, nothing really about this movie specifically.
Well, it's not trying to express anything anti-war, clearly. So obvious. Anyone that gets that wrong, like, just not thinking deep enough. What it does try to express, though, what it does try to say, is stuff about this brother and sister living a failed life due to isolation from society, and invokes sympathy, particularly in people in their teens and 20s. It's so obvious, like... Nah, let's be real, it's an anti-war movie.
Yeah.
Or it's a combination. Like, how are you gonna have a war movie where a 5-year-old dies, and that's like the main part of it, and say that it's not anti-war?
Because he wants the kids to die.
Literally, the whole point of the movie is that war kills these children. It makes no sense.
It really makes no sense.
Oh well.
He's
the creator, can't question him.
You cannot question the creator, am I right, Yandere Dev?
Yes.
Calling you out, punk.
Else if. Watch him find this video and flag it for abuse. He's gonna flag us for harassment.
Harass me. He'd be sitting there beating off like, yeah, harass me more. I love how that other group of people like completed the code in a couple days and it was good. And he just had a rage fit at them over it.
I know you did it wrong.
And it's like,
It's wrong because I don't understand it.
But it runs better than yours. It looks better than yours. It got done so much faster than yours.
Yeah, the problem was that they did it right and he just isn't nearly experienced enough with coding and stuff to know how to make it efficiently.
If he just asked for help.
Yeah.
Like, if he had, instead of throwing this massive rage, if he had just asked for help, he would have done with that game right now.
Yeah, instead, he didn't know he didn't have enough experience, didn't know what it was, got angry because he couldn't understand it and was like, no, you're all wrong.
He could have asked for help, gotten it done, become the esteemed Yandere Dev, and made more games that got more popular and made more money, but instead, he is the infamous Yandere Dev who can't complete a code.
It's such a simple game, too. Like,
yeah, it's not even like a dumb cunt like me who hardly knows code could complete that game for him.
My dude's acting like he's trying to code The Elder Scrolls 7 with 8K graphics.
Literally, but it's not. It's a simple, mediocrely designed high school RPG where you murder people. Like,
yeah.
It's... Okay, we're on a tangent. We've gone off topic a little bit.
Not wrong. The game somehow runs like it's exactly what I said. Elder Scrolls 7 with 8K graphics. It's like trying to run that on a laptop, except you can have the beefiest computer ever, but it'll be the same amount of lag.
It's still so laggy.
Yeah, the best computer in the world will still get maybe 8 FPS on that game.
Oh, thank you for watching episode 4. This is episode 4, right?
I think so.
Thanks for watching whatever one this is. We appreciate you and your viewership.
Yes. Thank you all for watching and not leaving within the first 5 minutes.
Thank you guys so much for coming. It was fun, and we discussed a cool movie. And like, share, subscribe. I almost said favorite. Does that like show how old I am?
That's still how I remember it. Remember to rate the video, everyone.
Remember to rate the video!
Follow me on MySpace.
Follow me on MySpace. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you. And if you've got any movie suggestions, or nice comments, or mean comments, I don't know, whatever boosts us to the algorithm, go ahead and chuck her down in the comments. All comments
Throw
are
down-
welcome.
Throw down your angriest comments. Like, just go in.
Just
It's
go
fine. Just
at
do
it.
it. You're still giving us comments.
Like, tell us that we are absolute cunts. Call us just the most awful, derogatory shit, and we will go, because YouTube will censor it, we'll go through into our hidden comments, and we will reveal those comments, and we will heart those comments. Every single one.
I retract into the bushes once again. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you later, guys. Are we recording or are we live? We're recording. Hey. Hello.
Hello.
My name Jeff.
My name is Pain.
My name is Jeff.
My name Jay.
Yo, what's your name? My name Jeff.
My name is Jeff.
Should I start again?
Honestly, why not? It just started in complete chaos.
Oh, what's up, everybody? My name is Athena. This is Dylan.
It's me.
It's Dylan.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. In the bushes.
In the bushes. I am here. I have emerged from the bushes on this day.
On the bushes.
We will talk about the death of the children today.
The death of society in the bushes.
I have come from the bushes to tell you about the death of society.
So good. Two Man would be so proud. He wouldn't be too mad. He'd be too happy.
I've been doing that one my whole life. And of course, I've got that one.
Too proud. TWO proud. Fuck.
Not gonna lie, KSI did it first.
KSI was in the bushes.
He was doing that voice before Too Mad even had a channel.
Two Man was doing it while he was in the womb. Two Man was doing it while he was in the
He
bushes.
was doing it from the bushes.
He was doing it from the bushes. Fuck.
Leaving the
We're
bushes.
5 minutes
We've just been talking about the bushes the whole time.
in. So we just
The sad
watched
part- The sad part of this intro part is that we can't keep any of it without people getting mad.
in the bushes. They'll yell at us, man.
They're gonna call us racist.
Just put it at the end with everything else.